Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. The Bank of Canada did something this week that they haven't done in over a year by holding their key interest rate. We're going to talk about what implications that's going to have on the Vancouver real estate market. Real quick before we get started, if this is your first time to the channel, my name is Hassan. I'm a real estate agent in the Vancouver area, and I make educational real estate content to help you in your real estate journey. I also make content designed to help you make your move in and around Vancouver. So if that sounds interesting to you, you can reach out to me in the Calendly link below if you want to chat one-on-one, but subscribe to this channel so you don't miss a future video. So while I'd like to say that the Bank of Canada holding its interest rate is what everyone was expecting, that wasn't truly the case. You had economists that were suggesting that we were going to see a rate pause, as we saw. Then you had other economists suggesting that the Bank of Canada may actually inch the rate further upwards. Now, the reason why there was a bit of a discrepancy and I guess some unknowns in the market is there was some conflicting information and data in the market that would have pointed towards a potential rate increase. Number one, the latest jobs report, Canada added 10 times more jobs than it was expected. Anytime that you add jobs to the market, normally you would think that that's a good thing, but when you're trying to actually slow things down in the economy, adding jobs would essentially increase consumer spending, and that would lead to higher inflation. So when that jobs report came out, there was a lot of people suggesting that we may actually see an increase. The key thing about that jobs report, though, is a vast majority of those jobs were in the public sector, not the private sector. So meaning that that was not a sign of businesses thriving and flourishing. So there was that jobs report, and then there was also news about Canada's GDP from the last quarter of last year actually remained flat, and in December it retracted. Now the Bank of Canada and other economists, they were expecting an increase of around 1.3% for the quarter. We were flat. Now, the thing that kind of threw a wrench in that is the reason we were flat had more to do with there being less business investment versus consumer spending coming down. Consumer spending still continued to be strong, which again is the driver of inflation, what the Bank of Canada is trying to get a handle on. Now, on that note, with the Bank of Canada pausing the rates, one of the things they said yesterday that stands out to me is that they feel that we will hit 3% year-over-year inflation by the midpoint of this year, which to me leads me to believe that towards the end of the year, we should hit that 2% target, of course, barring any sort of unexpected changes in the market. So I think with the Bank of Canada, what we have to keep in mind when it comes to inflation, because again, that's what they're trying to get a handle on, they have two tools to combat inflation. Number one is the interest rate, as we've seen, and to keep in mind that all of these increases we've seen over the last year, they take 6 to 12 months to penetrate into the market, if you will. So we're just starting to see the effects of that now. And again, in Q4, we saw a GDP that did not grow, but they have the ability to adjust the interest rate, and they have their voice. And their voice leads directly to consumer confidence, consumer sentiment. When they suggested that they were going to pause last time, it added confidence in the market. They realized that they probably should not have said that, and so we saw Tiff Macklem come out and do a few more media spots where he was suggesting, look, we will use that rate if we need to. We will increase it if we need to. In this statement of this last interest rate pause, I think they did a much better job of just being neutral and understanding that anything they say, the market is going to adjust to. So the Bank of Canada has to be careful to not be too forward-looking in their comments, because everyone's going to adjust to that, and they're going to adjust their spending, adjust the way that they affect the economy based on those statements. So in essence, real estate market, what is this going to mean for the real estate market? I've talked about it on my channel, how in the last 3 weeks to a month, there has been a significant shift in the market. We could see this coming. One of the data points that I was looking at is in January of this year, mortgage quotes were up double from December, which is something that you would expect. You wouldn't expect a lot of people asking for mortgage quotes in December versus January, but up almost 50% year over year from January of last year, which again, that was very close to the peak market. So we knew that buyers were getting interested in getting back into the market. Some of that is seasonal, where we're sitting right now in March with the spring market. But the fact that buyers were getting prepared in January, you could kind of see that there would be this sort of a shift. And now what we've seen over the last few weeks is again multiple offers happening all over the place. It's literally a race out there. So for example, for myself, I have a couple listings. I have one in Kitsilano, I have one in Fraser Heights. I'm getting many more calls on those in the last 2 or 3 weeks, inquiries, showing requests. When it comes to buyers, I'm actively working with several buyers right now, and I've never watched the show The Amazing Race, but I feel like the life I'm living right now is what that show would be about. So in my head, I believe that has to do with running around almost maybe like on a treasure hunt around the city in a race, trying to accomplish tasks. And that's truly what I feel my life is right now. Like, I'm gonna shoot this video, and as soon as I'm done, I'm gonna hit the road and try and beat the rush on properties. You're trying to get in as quick as possible. You wanna try and beat the weekend if you can for showings, because once a weekend hits, even properties that don't expect to be in a competitive scenario, they may not have an offer presentation date. Once that weekend hits, all bets are off, because the phones are ringing for the listing agents and they may adjust the strategy on the fly. So the market is already hot. And now what I think is going to happen with this pause in interest rates is I do think it's going to bring more buyers into the equation. In fact, I'm pretty much certain of it. I've had conversations with other buyers that were waiting to see whether the Bank of Canada was going to do what they said they were going to do and pause rates. They've done that. So that's now going to add some increased consumer confidence to the market. There's going to be more buyers coming into it. If I was a buyer right now, I'm going to give a couple pieces of advice. So if you're a buyer right now, and especially if you haven't done this process before, perhaps you're a first-time buyer, or it's been a long time since you've purchased a property, I would definitely be doing your homework right now. So outside of getting the pre-approval, which is a mandatory step right now, I would do all the learning you possibly can about the buying process. Look, a good realtor is going to take at least 80% of that stuff off of your plate. But let's not kid ourselves. If you're unfamiliar with the buying process, there's a lot of learn. It's a foreign thing for you when you go through the process. And if you're doing that in the process of trying to acquire the property, it can be a lot to take. So if you're committed to get into the market this year, now's the time to do your research. Not to plug my channel, but you're here anyways. I do have a playlist for home buying advice. You know, if you have spare time in the evening, late at night, you have 10, 15 minutes, maybe start doing some research on the home buying process. That way, when you get into it and you're ready to go, it'll be a little bit more familiar for you. And the reason that's important is time is everything. Like I just mentioned about The Amazing Race, which may or may not make sense because I've never seen the show, but everything is about time right now, money and time. So if you can give yourself a bit of a head start, hopefully you have a realtor that you can reach out to and you don't feel like you're bothering them, and you shouldn't feel like you're bothering them. And even if you're not ready to buy right now, you should be comfortable calling your realtor and asking questions and just doing your homework in that sense. Of course, you can always reach out to myself. As a seller, so here's some advice for a seller. I think this market is opportune for the upsizer. It was a good market last year for someone who was selling a condo or a townhome to upsize into a detached home, but there was still uncertainty in that market. Like, yes, you could have taken a fixed rate at that time, but now we have a bit more sense of direction in terms of the economy and what the Bank of Canada is stating. So there's a bit more constancy there. You also didn't have to worry. If you did it last year, you may have had more thoughts about how much further the market is going to fall. Now, where we sit today, when we look at home prices, Fraser Valley and the Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver, last month we finally had a month of price growth. 1 month is not a trend. So I'm definitely not coming out here and saying this is the way it's going to be, but it appears as we've hit at least a bottom for the short term. So again, if you're someone that's going to buy a detached home, we've seen property prices fall significantly. You can take advantage of a market that's a little less competitive at the detached home level, but also know that with your condo and townhome, that's such a hot commodity right now. So again, if you're going to upsize, you're going to sell a product that everybody wants, you're going to take advantage of detached home pricing that has come down in some areas 20, 25, and 30%. So there you have it, guys. Bank of Canada holds the rates, and this is what I think is going to happen because of that in the real estate market. If you learned something in this video, hit the like button. What that does is it takes this video and it sends it out to more people so they can learn from it as well. If you're in the Vancouver area and you want to chat with me one-on-one about your real estate situation, you can book me on the Calendly link below, or you can send me a text. Give me a call, whatever's easier for you. And if you enjoy this content, this real estate content, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss a future video. But I want to thank you for watching this video, and I hope you have a wonderful day.